Okay, welcome everybody to the UMortgage home buyer discovery class. I am so happy to be here. We are going to go over a few things in the market, a few steps when we're in contract to purchase, and also what it looks like when we're actually in the buying process. Once again, my name is Vincent Derisi with UMortgage. So happy to be here. We're in Cincinnati. We're going to cover mostly about the area of Cincinnati, but we will also touch base on what's happening nationally in comparison to Cincinnati. You can also, how did I put this on? You can catch us live. I was on Fox this morning, but they do a rerun at 11:30, so feel free to watch me and talk about what's going on right now in today's market as well. So speaking of the news, Cincinnati is hot right now in the news. Whether we're seeing articles on Zillow, we're seeing articles at the Cincinnati Enquirer, and we're seeing even on like the Washington Post and New York Times and stuff like that. Cincinnati is hitting an all-time high of hottest market in the country. And what does that mean? Cincinnati for a long time has been very affordable, an affordable city, okay? And what that means is compared to the nation, it's a little bit more affordable to live in Cincinnati compared to others. So I think the nation has been catching on, and we've seen it here locally, right? We've been seeing some prices jump up. We've been seeing multiple offers. We've been seeing quick decisions that are needed to be made. And, I think the secret's out with Cincinnati. I think a lot of it goes into play with, and a lot of people make fun of this, but honestly, I think with the Bengals being so good, UC being good, being in the Big 12 now, it's just making more headlines about Cincinnati, and we're seeing it in the real estate market. A lot of people want to live here. A lot of investors want to buy here. So it's even more and more important to be ready, have your numbers in place so that you're ready to pounce on that house that you want to pounce on, or being an investor, you're ready to pounce on that property. Speaking of investors, we're seeing rent going through the roof. We had something like this of a story recently in our own office. We had a colleague of ours. She had her rent increase about 30%. Now, that's a lot, okay? Unexpectedly, hey, 60 days from now, your rent is going to go up. What's great about being a homeowner, you can plan that. You're not going to have drastic increases in your monthly payment. Your monthly payment, typically, if you get a 30-year fixed, it's going to stay the same for that 30 years. You're able to budget yourself every single month. However, when you're a renter, that next year, next month, you could have an increase in your rent. And we're seeing it, obviously, year over year. And that chart goes pretty far back. Rent is increasing, specifically in Cincinnati. We're seeing housing prices go up. We're seeing rent follow. Reason being, we have high inflation. The cost of goods, the cost of everything has just increased. So that's going to get passed on to the consumer, right? And in this case, the renter. So what we've been trying to implement and really push, even with the market as fast and as, let's say, as high as it maybe has been, at least get yourself prepared, get your numbers ready so that you're not stuck in that rent bubble and you can budget yourself year after year. Like we mentioned before, Cincinnati. So here's some numbers where Cincinnati is in regards to offers, how long it's been on the market, what the median price is. So I saw another statistic the other day that the median price was actually up to $275,000, which is actually 11% from this time last year in Cincinnati. So that's pretty significant. So what does that tell us? That tells us that even next year, we're going to see another increase in housing. So people tell us, hey, can't buy right now. Interest rates are too high. Housing is too high. Well, guess what? housing's only going to go up. Rates will eventually come down and make it a little bit easier on affordability. But if you're able to push through on the payment now, buy and get in at where the market rate is now, you will be ahead when these prices go up next year. When they go up again next year by 5%. I did a little example for myself last night. At $250,000 purchase price, next year that house is expected to be 5% more. That rate is expected to be a little bit less next year. Even with the savings and the rate comparison to what you're buying the house in, you're still going to be paying more for the house than what you're paying for now. It's basically a green. You'll be in the green for about $12,000, okay, from purchasing now with the higher rate than purchasing next year with the prices being 5% higher. Here's another chart, Keeping Current Matters. We use Keeping Current Matters a lot. If you're not following Keeping Current Matters, I definitely advise you to do so. They are very spot on. They're honest with some of their expectations and their estimates. Once again, they are going a little bit further out of 5 years where they expect housing prices to go. As we all know, housing, or if you don't know, housing is probably the biggest gainer of wealth that a person can have. In comparison to a renter, to a buyer is going to have 40 times more wealth than a renter. Okay, that's amazing. Purchasing a house is basically almost having an automated savings account. How, Vinny? How is that possible? Each and every month, you're gaining equity in your property. So instant equity without doing anything, just the market playing itself over. Also, each month you're paying towards principal. So you're basically compounding it. You're doubling down on your equity month after month. As you can see here, you purchase a house now, within 5 years, you're expected to gain about $71,000. That's over a 250% rate of return. Show me a 401k, show me some other investment that is going to get a better return on your investment. I'll sign up tomorrow. Housing is the way to go, whether it's an investment property that you're going to rent out for long term, or if it's your primary residence that you're going to live with your family. Year over year, you're bound to be in the green when you purchase, regardless of where the rates are, regardless of where you're purchasing in the market. Now that you said, hey, I'm ready to pounce, I'm ready to jump in this market, what does this look like? Okay, so we kind of simplified it a little bit, and we'll go into each detail of each bullet point here. So application with us is by far one of the easiest process I have seen. So within the mortgage industry, tech has followed the mortgage industry. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Pretty much everything is online and paperless. So you would fill out an application online, put in the information securely, and you would even upload your documents securely to the website. According to the type of buyer that you are, you would upload W-2s. If you're self-employed, you'd upload tax returns and maybe some other various documents. But the system is so smart that it tells you what it needs for you to upload, so you're not uploading too much and obviously not uploading too little. Once we have that application in place, we're going to do a very, very detailed review of it and have that pre-approval consultation with you, okay? This is where the real work gets put in, okay? We are going over options, going over budget, going over tactics and timelines of where you can be as the best buyer, the best offer as possible, okay? While we're in this pre-approval process, we will also be going over loan options, right? A house in Anderson Township, I was literally just talking to my buddy Ben, house in Anderson Township at $300,000 is going to be a different monthly payment than a $300,000 house on the west side or on a different part of the east side. It just is. Every property has a different tax bracket and a different tax code, okay? So that's why it's super important that we do go over these options. We go over the monthly payments with our buyers to make sure that they are within budget, right? like we talked about before, inflation. Everything is rising. So we want to make sure before an offer, before we're shopping with our realtor, like our last bullet point here says, we're comfortable where our numbers are, okay? Because at the end of the day, it's really not about what that purchase price is. It's where's my monthly payment? Where's my funds to close going to be when we get to that point? And we're going to break down that pre-approval process here in a minute. And here's the pre-approval process right here. The three biggest pillars that we review, that we go into detail with: credit, income, and assets. Those are the biggest three that we go over and that we get into really detail with. Credit. I think credit has been a really big conversation lately because it's been in the news of how credit is being analyzed and how credit is being consumed by the consumer, right? Consumers now have access to their credit probably more than ever with Experian, with the Credit Karmas of the world, with, you know, Capital One gives you a free credit score, Discover Bank gives you a free credit score. And sometimes those are pretty accurate, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they can be way off, sometimes they can be spot on. So we really like to go into the whys and how your credit score got to where it is, right? Some people don't know that a big portion of their credit score is on the amounts owed. Look at that, 30% of amounts owed. So basically your utilization on your credit, not just your payment history, but also what you owe and pay each month, okay? So it's super, super important to understand credit, especially in this time where rates are where they are. We really want to dig into, like, hey, can we get maybe 2, 3, 20 points higher for our client? And then that's why we go deeper into the credit score and the credit reports with our clients. And obviously to make sure that they are accurate, there's no fraud going on. But the big thing is, how can we get a better edge, right? A better program for our borrower to get to that next step of buying. As we move on to income, income can sometimes be the easiest part of the loan process or pre-approval process. It could sometimes be the most difficult, okay? Because as you can see, there are so many different ways that we can gain income, collect income, calculate income, you name it, we'll try to figure it out, okay? So for example, we have our standard W-2 borrowers, right? If someone is hourly, they work their standard 40 hours a week, boom, plug and play, we're ready to go. Salary, once again, plug it in, ready to go. We have our retirement, we have our Social Security, and we have pension. Sometimes those aren't even as direct as they may be. You know, we have to show proof, we have to show continuance, right? So sometimes we're digging a little bit deeper into that, okay? And our team, knowing up front of what is needed for that so that there are no hiccups down the road, is super important. Self-employed, we're not afraid of looking into someone's self-employed income, business owner, or even if they own a few properties with rental income. So you name it, we're going to dig into it. We're going to make sure that if you make this type of income, we're going to try to use it so that we can get your budget to a higher number that needs to be, right? Because sometimes if you think you're pre-approved at 200, we're able to squeeze out maybe that 5, 10 grand because we can add that tip income or that bonus income. We're going to do so, and we're going to take our time to do that. And the next thing right now that we've been seeing is our funds to close with our buyers. The funds to close has started to trickle up a little bit due to some higher costs, higher insurance costs. So that's why it is super important for us to go detailed into what is included with the down payment, with your funds to close, et cetera, et cetera. So for example, when you purchase a house, there's not just the down payment that you need to be concerned about. There's also closing costs. Closing costs can be your lender fees, your title fees, and also your escrow. All that combined, we want to make sure that we're showing this to the client so that they are prepared that, hey, even though your down payment's only 3%, as you can see here, your funds to close are actually going to be a little bit more than that 3%. We want to prepare you for that. Not only are you going to have your funds to close for the house, you're going to have other expenses. Your appraisal, inspections, right? You want to make sure that the house is up to par of your standards when you're purchasing the house. So always get with your realtor on how much inspections are going to cost, what inspections you should get, because you should factor that into your funds to close, even though it's not due at the closing table, but it is going to be factored in when you have, when you're in contract to purchase a house. The other items that we talk about with funds to close is funds to close or your down payment can come from various places, okay? And we make sure, our whole team here at UMortgage in Cincinnati, we make sure that we have all those stones unturned to make sure that we're using all of our tools and resources for down payment. We have, obviously, our checking and savings account, right? Some people don't know that they're able to use their 401k for assets, or even as just the strength of your file, right? Reserves. We're not going to use that as down payment, but it's a strength for your file, right? Shows that you have additional assets to help you. Tax refund, right? We're literally almost around the corner here for taxes to be filed here, January 31st. And, before you know it, we might be using that for our down payment. Gift. There are tons of different ways that you can use a gift for down payment, whether it's an FHA loan or even a conventional loan for down payment. And we have other ways of your IRA, your stocks and bonds, and all that kind of stuff. We definitely look into depending on what type of borrower we have. In this market where inventory is a little bit lower than normal, okay, our team has been getting a little creative on the type of loan products that we have. Obviously, we have our conventional 3% down conventional programs. Now that's for first-time home buyers. We even have a 1% down program where we're able to gift the client up to $4,000. That's for first-time home buyers. FHA loans, our VA loans, which is probably the best loan out there. Happy Veterans Day to all our veterans out there. Jumbo packages that we have, down payment assistance. So we're making sure that we have something available for every buyer out there. If we have an investor that for whatever reason is not showing that money that they could actually afford on paper, but we have a program where we're using the rent and they could buy their investment property. That's called a DSCR loan. We have those as well. In this market, we have to be flexible and we have to have those options available. So to make sure that we do that, we're obviously teamed with great loan partners. Our loan officers are well adversed and educated on all these type of products. And if something doesn't, if you don't fit a certain box, we're going to try to see if we can find something else that will work for you to make sure that you do get on that train, you do get on that home buying train, and you don't miss out, because obviously home buying is probably one of the best investments that someone can do. Now that we figured out you're pre-approved, we figured out the budget, we figured out what type of loan program we're going to do. We know what numbers we're going to play with. We know where our out-of-pocket's going to be, all that kind of fun stuff, right? We did the dirty work, right? We went to practice, and we're ready for game day now. This is where I know that our team of loan officers here are probably one of the best in the business here, winning the offer. Because we have prepared for this time and time again. We have our buyer ready to go. They know the market. They know they got to act fast. They have their numbers in front of them. Now it's up to us to dominate and execute. So what do? We get an offer in, right? We see a house that we love. We're going to call that listing agent. We're going to say how awesome Ben is. He could close fast, and he can even give that seller some time to move out. We see that grandma still living in the house. Let's give her some time to stay in there, okay? And what I mean by delayed occupancy is we close on the house. Say we close on November 30th. We give that seller some time to move out, a week, 2 weeks, even up to 59 days. Huge sale tactic, huge. Gap appraisal. We can go into a gap appraisal. meaning the difference between what the house is going to be purchased at compared to what the house appraises at. So an appraisal is something that the bank determines what the value of the house is. Now, obviously, there's a predetermined value with the executed contract of what the buyer and seller are going to buy for. But because there's lending involved, the lender needs to approve how much that house is also worth. And that's called an appraisal. Sometimes there's discrepancies on the value. We have not seen it that much, but when it comes, we want to make sure our buyers, our team is ready for that. So we prep them for that. So we come up with a gap, a $5,000 gap, a $2,000 gap, whatever the gap may be. But our buyers are understand where those numbers lay so that they can aggressively make that type of offer. Fast close. Our team has been closing loans, no joke, in 8 days. Andy on our team is getting clear to closes in 2 days. Nick, our processor here, is well adversed in all the programs and knows how to get these loans done in a quick and timely manner. Chad and Dan, Chris, Darren, they are preparing the whole team to get these loans done from start to finish as quickly as possible, because sometimes that's what's needed to win in this market. So winning the offer, I believe, is a big part of what our team are experts at here. Okay, we won the offer. We're in the process now. Okay, we're gonna start getting the underwriting process put together. We're gonna start ordering our items that are needed to verify the stuff that we went over at pre-approval. Okay. 9 times out of 10, I would say we're collecting maybe some updated items, maybe an updated pay stub, maybe an updated bank statement, right? Because sometimes our buyers have been pre-approved for longer than expected, and we're collecting maybe an updated document here or there. But we have the majority of the heavy lifting done already, okay? So typically at this point, we're e-signing loan documents. We're going to send you an email, secured email. You're going to e-sign the loan documents. You're going to have all your numbers in there. We're going to call you and we're going to review them and make sure they're all accurate. They all make sense. They're all in line to what they were when we made that offer. So you e-sign the loan documents. We get direct notification that it's completed. Once it's completed, we're going to order what's called the title work. Title ensures that you're purchasing the house from the correct seller and that you are the correct buyer, and they are also the person who handles all the funds between the lender, the seller, and you as the buyer. Okay. We'll also order appraisal and any other third-party items that are needed in regards to that are not us, the lender, specifically. Once we have all those items, and honestly, typically all those are done within the same day, 24 hours. So we're moving quickly here. We get your loan over to our underwriter, and our underwriter is the person who is going to say, hey, John's pay stub looks great. John's bank statements look perfect. He is approved conditionally. Maybe we're still missing the appraisal, or maybe we're missing some title work, right? Because we just ordered it yesterday. So we're conditionally approved for these other conditions to complete the file. Once these items are collected, Nick, our processor here, who's down the hall, will submit them back to the underwriter for the clear to close. That's all typically within 24 hours as well. Very next day, we get that clear to close. The underwriter says, hey, we're clear to close. Go schedule closing. And it's as streamlined as we can get it and as direct communication as possible, whether it's through email, through text, through phone call. There's always going to be some sort of way of communication of what's needed, when it's needed, and how we need to receive it. So we try to be as clear and as proactive as possible, especially with doing classes like this, so that, when we get to this step, you are more concerned about, okay, movers, buying stuff for the house. Because honestly, I've been doing this for 10 years, and this is probably one of the most emotional things that a buyer is going to be doing, is being in this process right here. Making sure that the house that their family is going to live in is going to close and they're going to be done on time. Okay? Super important. So that's why we make sure that we are collecting the majority of these documents up front and being as communicative and as proactive as possible as we're in that loan process. So much so that we have typically everybody in-house here under one roof working together to make that happen. Once you're closed, we do have a big philosophy here at UMortgage and with our team. We want to help you for your whole entire mortgage life, your whole entire house life, okay? And what does that mean? Well, we want to help your friends. We want to help your neighbors. We want to help you grow maybe your portfolio of houses, okay? Because that's how our business grows. That's honestly how our business goes. We don't take, we don't buy referrals. We don't buy any information to receive buyers. We are all on a relationship basis with our referral partners to help each and every one of our buyers. And by returning the favor, we want to take care of your friends and family that have had the pleasure of working with us and vice versa. So my branch manager and I, we have a pretty interactive social media page that we love to use. We would really, really love if you would come on and follow us. We talk about the market. We talk sometimes we throw some family stuff in there. But majority, we're really trying to implement all the good stuff that's going on here at UMortgage, and we really want to, keep people up to date with what's happening because, in this mortgage world, in this real estate world, 1 week is different than the next. You can have a housing market could change literally overnight with whether it be rates, whether it be when the MLS went down. That's why it's super important to always be, super interactive with your realtor, with one of your lenders here at UMortgage. It's always important to always stay in touch, whether it is obviously social media or whether it's through text or phone calls. So as we've been doing this class now for I think almost over 2 years, and we've collected some questions that maybe we've not gone into detail too much during the class. So Holiday put them down here, and we'll just run through them real quick because she told me last time I took too long. So we'll run through them here pretty quick. Do I need an inspection, and who schedules it? So no. Typically, you do not need an inspection for a property, and the person who schedules it is you and your realtor. That has nothing to do with the actual loan itself. How much is an appraisal, and who chooses the appraiser? An appraisal is anywhere between $485 and $750, depending on the type of property and the type of occupancy that the property is going to be. Who chooses the appraiser? We choose the appraiser. We have our own in-house appraisers that we pick from a panel. So how that works is we have a panel of, say, 10 appraisers. We order the appraisal, and then whoever selects that appraisal first gets it. Now, these panel of appraisers are specifically chosen by us so that we know we have the top of the top in this market, and they're very familiar with where sales are, that are happening recently in the market. So we're not getting, some weird fugazi reports. What are contingencies? So contingencies, the definition of contingencies for when you purchase a house is something that's going to stop you from buying the house cleanly, okay, or immediately after underwriting is done, right? So for example, one contingency could be I need to sell my house before I buy this new house, or I need to receive this raise before I buy this house. So a contingency is something that is going to block the transaction cleanly without something else happening. Earnest money is typically your promise that you are going to move forward with the contract of the house, right? So typically when you put an offer in, I'm going to offer $300,000 and an earnest money of 1%, $3,000. Basically my promissory that I'm going to do everything set forth in this contract, and if I don't, I'm going to give up my earnest money, okay? If everything goes according to plan, that earnest money would go towards your down payment and closing costs. So the earnest money does go towards something as long as everything is met within that contract accordingly. Why do I need private mortgage insurance? So private mortgage insurance is needed when you put less than 20% down on a house. It allows you to put 20% down, less than 20% down on a house as well. So it protects the lender from lower equity investments from buyers, right? So if a buyer only puts 3% down, and maybe they lose their job a year from now, their investment's only 3%. They might say, hey, you know what? Well, I'm going to let this house go. Well, the bank has what's called private mortgage insurance to get that payment back from Fannie and Freddie, from the investors. Say, hey, John had a great job, back in the day. Now he lost his job. He stopped making payments. Here's our mortgage. Here's the mortgage insurance that's been paid. Now it's time to give us money back for the house, and we'll sell it back on the open market. What's included in closing costs? So we went a little bit into this before. You have your lender fees, so that would be us, right? What the lender charges to do the loan. Title company, depending on the title company, they have various closing fees, right? So what the closer is going to charge, and what their items are to pull certificates that the actual seller is the actual seller and you are the buyer as the actual buyer. Also, what's included in closing costs, you'll have your escrow. So when you purchase a house, you have the choice of paying your taxes and insurance included in the mortgage. So they technically put that in with the closing costs. And also home insurance. Home insurance is typically paid up front as well. So we typically include that as a closing cost. Can you bring a check to the closing table? No, it will have to be a certified cashier's check, or in the state of Ohio, under 10 grand, you have to wire, over 10 grand, you have to wire the funds directly to the title company. So typically 9 times out of 10, we're having the clients wire their funds to close to the title company. When is your first payment due? 30 days after, well, let's say this, a month after you close. So if you close in November, your first payment is not going to be until January, okay? So basically a whole month. You're going to skip a whole entire month, and then your first payment would be due, okay? So pretty cool. If you close a house, close in this month, which we do still have time to close in this month, your first payment will not be until next year. That's insane. That's awesome. And who do you make the payment to? So 9 times out of 10, this information is going to be directly given to you at the closing table. I'll say 10 times out of 10 is going to be given to you at the closing table. You're going to make the payment with the coupon check that we give you, or you're going to get what's called a hello letter, a welcome letter, to show you how to make the payments online easily and simply. You're not going to be left in the dark with that. How soon can you refinance? Well, we'll take care of you with that. The best way to do that is stay in touch with us. We'll stay in touch with you, because everyone's circumstance is different. There's really no unwritten rule or written rule for that. The best way to do that as a team is for us to let you know when that's possible. Now, like I mentioned before, this is all done with relationships. One of our core values in UMortgage is relationships, not transactions. So if you feel like this was useful to you, please click the barcode, get your certificate for your $300 off of closing, and refer someone to us. Let us help them get to that home buying step. Let us help that investor add to their portfolio. Let us help you help them. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate it. And if anyone needs anything, anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to shoot me a text. Gosh, I'm having 15 text messages already. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, and have a great day.